Maybe you already heard the news that the next Spider-Man game will release sooner than we think. Fall 2021 is rumored now, and in this video I want to tell you why that actually makes a lot of sense. Because there are a lot of things that point in that direction. Meaning that we very likely also get a reveal in 2020 already. Yes, exciting times, so let's get into it. A like on the video would of course be super appreciated, and let's go. Not a surprise of course that we get a follow-up to Marvel's Spider-Man. The game sold over 13 million units worldwide as of August 2019, making it the best-selling superhero game of all time. And Sony of course also bought Insomniac Games after this insane success. So it's not a question of if, but more of when. And we now got a new rumor that gives a very realistic indication. And it all comes from Imran Khan. And if you follow my videos on the next Assassin's Creed as well, then this name will sound familiar. This is namely the ex-Game Informer employee who also shared that he heard about the potential reveal month for Assassin's Creed Kingdom and that could be in February of next year. Either way, he's now talking about Marvel Spider-Man 2 on the Kinda Funny Games cast, and it's very interesting to say the least.
Spider-Man 2, I think, probably not coming at launch. I think it's a Christmas 2021 title.
Okay.
I think a Spider-Man 2... I know too much about this, so I can't speculate too much. I think a Spider-Man 2 will will come sooner than we think.
Okay.
The part where he says that he knows too much is of course very interesting, implying that he has some insider info, making this quote-unquote prediction of him way more likely. And it's not weird that he could know some stuff. He has been working in the gaming industry for some time now, but also because, again, he worked at Game Informer and they had the big blowout for this game before release with their cover story. I think they were actually one of the first people that played it, so might be that Imran got some insights from that whole process and kept in touch with the developers or something like that. Either way, I think that fall or Christmas 2021, so the late 2021 release window, is a very solid bet. I think they started working on this game immediately in 2019, so right after they finished the City That Never Sleeps DLC. Maybe you remember this tweet from Brian Intihar, the creative director on Marvel Spider-Man. Few things are more nerve-wracking than sharing your first story draft to others. And this tweet was posted on January 25th. So on this day, he was already sharing his first ideas for the stories of this next game. What else could it be? It would be weird if Brian was not working on the next Spider-Man. And in terms of story, we can of course already guess where the game will go, thanks to the teases at the end of the main game and the DLC. Symbiote seems a very logical next step. The suit was missing from the game because Brian thinks that it deserves its own day in the spotlight. Making it an unlockable suit would not be doing it justice. He then continues saying that it's a complex story and that he thinks that it's a story that needs to be told and that it needs to be told the way Insomniac would tell it. And the next game seems like a great place for that, of course. Miles will likely have a prominent role in this next game too. I would not be surprised if we play as him during certain sequences, maybe the tutorial to get in the groove of things again. But yeah, the point is that 3 full years of development for this sequel seems totally possible for many reasons. One being that Insomniac can release high quality content in a relatively short period of time. And they showcased that recently, for example with the Spider-Man DLC. 6 hours of story content with awesome cutscenes in 3 months following the release. Sure, they started a little before the game came out, but they really finished all the 3 episodes right before the December 21st episode 3 release date, so that's pretty impressive indeed. The Sunset Overdrive team inside Insomniac is mostly behind Marvel Spider-Man, and that Microsoft exclusive, that is still by the way one of my favorite games this generation, launched in October 2014. If we look at Brian Intihar's LinkedIn, we also see in October 2014 that he started as a creative director, likely on Marvel Spider-Man. after being a producer on Sunset Overdrive. Meaning that around that time they started working on Marvel's Spider-Man, and then 4 years later we finally got the game on September 7th, 2018. But for that game they really had to start from scratch. They did not know what an Insomniac Spider-Man would look like, and it's the complete opposite for this second game. Meaning that they likely need less time than for the original. I mean, they now have their own version of the familiar characters, a broad idea of where they want to take the story next, their own recreation of New York that they will likely improve upon and add to. But more importantly, they already have the web swinging down. Something that took them 3 whole years of development to get just right. You might remember that Insomniac changed the web swinging after the E3 2017 gameplay trailer because of feedback that appeared online. Brian Intihar said 1 month after that trailer went live that they already improved the web swinging so it's easier to gain speed now. And I think we can both agree that the web swinging in the final game feels really good. So in the second game they can just build upon that, likely add some new tricks that we can do, but also likely make it way faster. Sony now used Marvel Spider-Man multiple times to showcase the power of the PlayStation 5 compared to the PS4 Pro. This demo was released during an investor meeting back in May, and here we see that the PlayStation 5 loads Marvel Spider-Man in under 1 second, while the PlayStation 4 Pro takes 8 seconds to do the same. And also interesting, and this has a big impact on the gameplay, is the fast render speed thanks to the SSD inside the PS5. You now see the speed at which we could go through the world of Spider-Man on PS4 Pro. Sometimes it has to load to make sure that everything is rendered, but if we go to the PS5 footage, we see that it moves without any stutters. And yes, it goes insanely fast as well, meaning that on paper Spider-Man on PlayStation 5 could swing way faster because the hardware can now handle it. While on the PS4 they had to limit the speed to make sure that the console could still run the game. So very curious to see what the upgrades will be that we can unlock in Marvel Spider-Man 2, but being able to swing faster from point A to point B totally seems to be in the cards. And this is the PlayStation 5 dev kit that the developers are now using to test their game on the next hardware, and I'm sure that Insomniac has a ton of those laying around. The retail version should of course look way better than this, and hopefully we get a reveal of what it will look like in February 2020. The PlayStation 4 was revealed on February 20th, 2013, and then it launched in November of that year. November is a very possible release month for the PS5 as well, as Sony already confirmed. And a great way to showcase the power of your next hardware is of course the next Spider-Man. I mean, they're already showcasing the original game to demonstrate the power difference between the PS4 and the PS5. So it makes sense to showcase Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 of course as well and include it in the commercials. Although I don't think that it will be at the reveal event just yet. Now I think the spotlight will there be on the next horizon to highlight the insane graphics of the PS5 and showcase some of the new features. Can't wait for that. No, but still, a Spider-Man 2 reveal in 2020 makes a ton of sense if they indeed plan to release it in 2021. I mean, let's not forget that the third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie is releasing in 2021 in July. So that would be another reason for Insomniac and Sony to go for that 2021 window and already have it ready around that time or a few months after the movie is out. And sure, the game will not have anything to do with the movie, although we will likely see the new suits from that movie in the game, like we saw this year with the update that included the Far From Home suits. No, but launching the game and the movie around the same time will of course help a ton with the marketing. Like there will be a ton of extra Spider-Man hype after the film has come out, something that should boost the sales of the game too. And with this rumored holiday 2021 release, the game will fit perfectly in between Spider-Man 3 with Tom Holland and the Into the Spider-Verse 2 movie that now has a launch date of April 8th, 2022 according to IMDb. So having major Spider-Man releases like in 1 year time with the game in between would of course be really nice. So then I think that a reveal at E3 2020 perfectly lines up. Even if it's just a teaser trailer, similar to the one we saw when the original was announced back at E3 2016 2 years before the game came out. And I think that E3 in June also makes sense because it's after the release of Marvel's Avengers that I think might have that May 15th, 2020 release date, partly because it wants to be out before the announcement of some next-gen superhero games like Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and whatever Rocksteady is working on. Because otherwise people will obviously compare the titles and that might be negative for the Avengers. That is still coming out on 6-year-old platforms at that point. So that's why I think we will not see the next Spider-Man game before Marvel's Avengers has released. Marvel Games likes to focus on one console game at a time, but still, seeing Spider-Man 2 next year in 2020, it makes a ton of sense. And 2020 was already going to be insane because of the amazing new games and the next-gen console releases, but you sometimes forget that we will also get reveals for next-gen titles that will come out later, and it never really occurred to me that Spider-Man 2 could be one of them. But now that I think about it, it really makes a ton of sense. If Sony is at E3, of course, it's still unclear. Last year around this time we already knew that they would skip the convention, so maybe they return in 2020. Whatever happens, a Spider-Man 2 reveal in 2020 seems totally in the cards. And when we know more, I will of course let you know here on the channel. Again, 2020 is going to be insane, and I will keep you up to date on all the best games here. So totally subscribe if you haven't already. A like on the video would be super appreciated. And this Sunday video, just like the Assassin's Creed one we saw last week and the Game Awards predictions we saw before that, released 2 days early for members of the channel. So if you click the join now button and support me in that way, you get early access to these big, well-researched videos. They will release for everyone on Sunday, but you can already watch them on Friday. It's optional, totally not necessary, but it helps me improve the quality of the content so I can hire an editor and stuff like that. We'll have a more official announcement on the channel soon, but just wanted to let you know already. You can watch my previous videos by clicking on the screen, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye!